All right, Sci-Fi Express Lane. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Express Lane. My name is Jeff Carroll. I'm a writer, science fiction, horror movies, books, all types of stuff, urban drama, you name it, street lit, I'm there. Today I'm going to be talking about independent comics selling at comic book stores. That's today's topic, right? So when I travel, I like to go to comic book stores and check out the local comic book store. I also go to bookstores, and before that I used to go to video stores, However, with videos now, videos are kind of DVDs, they're kind of done. You really will rarely find a video store, maybe in a big city, a vintage store or something like that, but DVDs and Blu-rays is kind of, taking a backseat to streaming now. So anyway, I went to this comic book store in Phoenix, Arizona this past weekend, and it made me think of how independent comics are sold in comic book stores. Now, independent comics are really cool because you get it's where writers get their start. More writers get their start, right? And illustrators cut their teeth. With the comic book companies, how you break into the industry is you submit writing samples or illustration samples, and the companies can choose you to get involved. Even when you do that, you still, by the time you get to that level, that should not be the first things you've written or drawn. So to get your teeth cut in sequential art, you work independently and work your way up and get your skills up. The way you do with writing, you work your way up. Get smaller writing gigs and produce your own comics and do it. Some people get so good at it they don't even really look at getting into the industry, although right now the industry is still ideal thing for people to do, right? But not everybody's doing it. The other thing is most of these comic books sell at comic books conventions, right? When you go to a comic book store, it could be the biggest one, Midtown Comics in New York City. I don't know what their independent section looks like, but most of the comic book stores, the problem that they have is comic books sell anywhere from $4 to $6 new comics. Indie guys, unless you're printing over 1,000 comics, which is like 10 boxes, you see my boxes, and have storage, it's very hard to get printing under, right now it's damn near $325, right? For a decent sized book, for a 28 page 32 page book, right? So to sell it, you have to almost double that for you to get the retail store to be able to give you a cut, because more than likely you're going to sell it to the retail for $4 or $5. And that's if they buy a certain amount of books. However, retail ain't gonna make $1 off a book. Sometimes they could. I know some retail stores that don't necessarily mind, but others, they're not doing that. So at conventions, I've seen books sell, indie books, from anywhere from $5 to $10, right? I sell my books with a signature $8. I'm actually going to go into a review of that because I'm going to start doing some variant covers, and me going to this store in Arizona, Phoenix, really confirmed that's what I want to do. Now my store, Tate's, in Fort Lauderdale area, has a really good way to do their indies. Sometimes they have a whole section of indies, right? But they take them and put them right there on the shelf with the new comics, and they may put a thing under their local author indie title, and my fingernails sold 20 copies out of Tate's, which is a lot when you think, if you could imagine it sold that at 1,000 stores, then you'd be like, wow, that's really good. But this was a store that has been hailed as one of the top comic book stores in the country by Diamond Distributor. So they did very well, for it to sell 20 copies. And this was like in a month or 2 months, it wasn't even long. And they just put under the local author, right? Now that's one way to do it. It also sold for, I think he sold for $4 to $6, somewhere in that range, which was really not enough for him to make a profit. But I think they did it because they support local authors, and that's one way. But local indie comics don't always make sense for local stores or comic book stores because most of the time we don't really do marketing. If we do marketing as a poster or something like that, the stores don't really want it in. They don't really have room for it, right? It's rarely because they got enough Spider-Mans and other Supermans and other posters that are going to sell more on their walls. So to put some independent comics poster up there, which may not even be as great, they just don't have the room for it. So it's very hard for you to find a way to market your store, your comic. You're not going to take an ad out in Diamond Distributor because your book isn't even advertised, accepted in Diamond, so they're probably not even going to accept your ad. So you have to do internet marketing, and it's very hard to do internet marketing for specific location, right? So, and indie people don't always do the biggest marketing, so forget it. It's a moot point. Facebook and Instagram posts on their page is about the most marketing they do. They don't take out ads. They don't really announce it. That's the cool thing about Kickstarter, is that it sort of encourages you to market your own product. So anyway, I went to Phoenix, and they had a really cool way, and I don't know why we never thought about this, but when you go to every comic book store is a comic book collector's store, right? Every comic book store. They all have comics that cost a lot of money in their store. They're gonna have a $500, $1,000 comic book in a little glass case, or they're gonna have some old copies, $20, $30 on the shelf. Now with Marvel and DC doing variant covers, they're gonna have a wall of variant covers. Variant covers is just a cover that wasn't the main cover of a book done by a special artist that adds in its value. Anything can be a variant cover as long as it's different from the main cover that is the book cover. And I've seen people, play around with that so much that you don't even know what the main cover. Every cover is a daggone variant, and that's almost the way Marvel and them do it as well. They just do option 1, option 2. Even when you're ordering which one, they may do a special limited cover. Anything to encourage the value of increase the value of the comic. So at this comic book store, I'm gonna put the name of it up there. I can't remember. I think it's Death something. But they had a wall of indie comics, all independent comics, and they were signed, and they said signed, and they said variant covers. So, and it was right next to the old comics that were $20, $30. So now they separated it from the new comics, so that way you wouldn't really feel that the price is a factor, because now you're comparing it to the vintage comics that are old, and also ones that are signed. Because once a comic is signed, it goes up in value. So when people are selling an independent comic at a convention and they sign it, they've already increased the value. Now, whether the value is $10 or $30. All depends on the comic, but it definitely goes up in value because everybody that buys your comic may not get a signed copy. Now, I practically sign every one of my comics because I said I sell them for $8, so I already want to give you a value. But I only have one cover for my Fingernails book. That was the first time that I did a variant cover, and it was a limited edition variant cover. So everybody that got that cover, it is a limited edition. However, I'm going to go back and get a couple more variant covers for Fingernails, and what do you call it? Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking at selling them at my tables as variant covers with signed, and specifically for collectors. Now, I made this video kind of to encourage the industry. I wanted to, I'm gonna post some pictures on my Facebook page, but I wanted to, open this up to comic book stores to sort of think about having an indie comic section. And if you can get an indie comic section, then getting an indie comic section where you can allow the comics to sell for more than the $4, $5, $6 that the new comics go for, because that way, the creator can make some money, and that way you can make money as a retailer. I don't think it's a thievery thing. You could discount that if you want, if people buy a whole series or more than one comic, but it gives you room to do that, whereas selling them for $4 or $5 is definitely making a quarter on a comic book just because the printing is so high. And you have to still ship them and mail them, and many times you're not shipping 5 comics. 50 comics, you're shipping like 10, so even with media mail, that can be like $4. So that can add on to the cost of the comic. So anyway, that's just one thing I wanted to do. I'm going to show you this pictures of this store. It was really nice. They have vertical displays. The full cover of the comic can be on there. They have a good sized comic book store. It isn't the biggest one that I've seen, but it's bigger than some of the ones that I've seen, and they really make use of it well. So shout outs to them. I'm going to put some comics that I have of mine together when I go back and print this next run of Fingernails. I'm trying to go, I don't know, maybe I could do 1,000, but I don't know. But anyway, yeah, give me your opinion of this, people in the industry. How have you seen indie comics sold in stores? How do you sell your indie comics in stores? Remember to like my video. Remember to subscribe to my page. And that's it. All right. And share it. All right. So yeah, Jeff Carroll, Sci-Fi Lane, independent comics in comic book stores. All right. Peace.